if Creme can really help him develop. That was the idea of him joining NIP with Doinby. So, of course, Creme, just a different role when you are playing with all this youth, Gordo. But as we dive on in, it does look like we have BLG and Top Esports so far. It looks like we have first pick on red side for Top Esports. So, going to get a little funky here as we did have at least a little bit of a differing choice. We don't know who got choice out of this. We'll know in game 2. But interesting.
Yeah, we do know that Top Esports chose to pick first, and we know that BLG chose to play on blue side. You can tell that by the characters underneath their respective team tricodes here in the center. But yeah, we don't know which one came first necessarily, but that first pick for Top Esports is going to be that strong flex pick in the Ambessa. Could be going into the jungle, could be going into the top lane.
Yeah, a nice little deny from Bin as well, as I think Bin, it took him a little bit longer to pick up Ambessa. Bin, for me as a player, isn't someone that actually picks up champs ASAP. I feel like Bin needs a little bit of time sometimes with champions, but of course when Bin hits his highs with champions, he wrote the book on how to play Jax pretty much. I mean, this guy is built different on the champions that we know he pilots very well. As it looks like we're going to get a Varus for Viper and an Orianna for Knight. So taking away some of that wombo that is, you do have the potential to have when it comes to the public execution plus Shockwave. Top Esports going to grab the Jhin, so they're going to lock in some range priority against Varus, Orianna, and Creme's Akali in the mid lane. Always been a special pick for him.
Yeah, I love to see this from Creme. I think a lot of teams in this situation, they'll just handshake the Azir. They'll accept that, you know, it's maybe like a 55-45 matchup in favor of the Orianna. And while there's plenty of opportunity to outplay, a lot of folks do prefer the Orianna side there. It's going to be Knight daring him to pick the Azir into him, and Creme saying, no, thank you. I'm going to go back to what my specialty historically has been. Snap up that Akali, get himself a matchup where he could be able to win out in the one-on-one. Love to see Bin snap up a Renekton right now, being able to dominate in the top lane. Now something that can really, really snowball, and we hear players all over the world talking about this new patch and how much more reliably you can kind of carry from the top lane, and you can have a lot more impact if you are outperforming your lane opponent. Now they get to ban away 2 of 369's picks on top of getting this Renekton. They should feel very confident in Bin's ability to play up there.
Yeah, it also really encourages that Ambessa to go into the jungle, because Ambessa into Renekton is such a difficult matchup for Ambessa. So I think BLG, I mean, showing a lot of early game priority between Renekton, potential poke Varus, and an Orianna going into Top Esports, who if it is poke Varus, do have some nice scaling between the Ambessa, the Jhin, which is scale into that matchup, but is going to need to find a way to survive early. So curious if they get a bridge into Renekton. Sion going to be banned out for 369. Cassante taken away. So those big tanks that can play into the Renekton going to be removed for 369.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're going to want to do if you're trying to set Bin up for success here, right? You do try to just take away some of those really reliable tanks that 369 has kind of made his name on. As historically one of the best top laners in the region, and you just try to get that veteran rock in the top lane for Top Esports off of his comfort, especially when Creme is already on that comfort in the form of this Akali, getting himself a nice matchup in the mid lane. Now looking at supporter jungle for BLG. Covering that Pantheon, and they might just pick that one up for the likes of Shun.
Man, we're playing fast on the side of BLG. As Renata taken away, that tells me it's likely to be a Fengyue Nautilus coming in, or Rel.
Right, 369.
Yeah, it's got to be one or the other, as 369 gets his choice of tank. Going to be the Ornn. Very happy, frankly, into the Renekton. But Braum would be a nice pickup, kind of cute. You can block that Call of the Forge God with the shield backwards, can be quite valuable this game. So could be an option for On if he wants it. The Shen would really help play towards that top side, which we did see, but frankly, I think the Braum's the move this game. If you take away that Call of the Forge God, that makes it a lot more difficult for Top Esports to engage, because they're kind of looking to have that hold the front line. You want Rail to approach on flanks. You'd love for Akali to approach on flanks, and then collapse when that ult comes down. You remove that threat with the Unbreakable for Braum. I think it makes the execution of the rest of the team fight for Top Esports quite difficult. So I do like this pickup for On. Also curious if we actually get an on-hit Varus, because you're playing into Ornn. It's a really tanky team for Top Esports, and one that, frankly, on-hit Varus could somewhat interact with. So I'm curious if the Braum actually indexes Viper to go on hit this game.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to see a whole lot of it. We always talk about how it's an alternate build that's available and could be picked in certain situations.
If it's not on hit, I think the clock that BLG has this game is very narrow and very quick. Because I just cannot see a world where Poke Varus does anything to Ornn, Ambessa, Akali later on. So I'm really curious if with the Braum, Viper does end up going for on hit. I think it's an option this game.
Yeah, I mean, 369 on the Ornn, too. This is a classic 369 pick, right? It's one of the most played in his entire career, even though it's kind of fallen by the wayside over the course of more recent tank preferences, right? You saw in that second phase of bans, they take away the Scion, they take away the Cassante. Those are kind of the new hotness in terms of what kind of tanks you're going to play up in the top lane. But back in 369's day, it was all about that Ornn baby, and it stays up there in his top 3 most played champions to this very day. He's going to snap it on up, but you're going to see some of the weaknesses firsthand here in the fact that it's going to have a little bit of a rougher lane up against the Renekton, and it's going to very possibly hosed by this Braum, assuming that On is able to have his wits about him, stay in position to be able to use the Unbreakable to delete that ramp.
Yeah, I think On, if I'm On, I'd be very disciplined about throwing that Unbreakable out backwards to deny that call of the Forge God. I think that's going to be a big key for BLG as we dive into this first game. Excited to hop into this one, Gordo. Let's see if Top Esports can take it to the team that is #1 of the standings for LPL at the moment.
Excited for this one, Cubby. Welcome to Summoner's Rift as we get on to the very first game of tonight's series. Minion Wave's already crashing in mid, and Fengyue already trying to create some control in this bottom side bush. Does look like both junglers going to be starting up on the top side this game, so perhaps some early involvement and some early scuffling for the scuttle.
Now, I know that BLG have been the kings of the LPL, as we are going to get a heal burned for a not-so-hot trade for JiaQi and Fengyue. Nothing too interesting with the builds. Outside of it is going to be that Poke Varus. So I really feel like this window for BLG, I mean, they're going to run out of damage against Ornn pretty quickly. Ornn's going to feel so happy going for that armor, going up against the top side, the Unstoppable to help really play against that Renekton plus Pantheon. I think going to be nice. As we'll see if Top Esports can really make the most of it.
Yeah, maybe something to be said for the the Black Cleaver Bruisers in the Pantheon and the Renekton, but certainly not the class of champion you would choose to deal with an Ornn. Perhaps though, an opportunity to focus up on that top side.
And it also feels good to get back into the game. Stop talking about us. I will say, kind of curious, 369 went for bone plating in this matchup, and I don't think that's great. You're going to spend a lot of time low against the Renekton, a likely second win. At least he's maxing out the value on some of those cookies, because he had to eat them going low. Spin burns the flash, keeps the pressure on at the top lane.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what you're looking for, and this is the alternate win con up against the Ornn, trying to just build up that lead in the one-on-one. Maybe even get an opportunity for a path back on up there for Mr. Shun. We'll find out if he does find the opportunity to do that before too long, as he is rounding out his first clear as we speak, maybe a little bit behind pace of the Ambessa, as NaiYou going to be in that area as well. We're going to find out. NaiYou already in the river, but Knight coming down to try to support. It is pre-level 6 Akali, limited in how much support they can provide, but the speed of the Ambessa just proves too much. NaiYou going to claim that bottom side scuttler.
Making his way down here, too, for the wraparound. This wave was pushed in hard by the Jhin Rel. It's now bounced away from BLG, but Viper seeing it's only 3 creeps. That does mean that that wave is guaranteed to push back into BLG, and Viper is going to be all right taking the base. So going to be a wave that's a little bit further back and away from him, but will base, and JiaQi will read it as well, so he matches. And they're going to take advantage of the home cards back. Now, Shun was looking for the Raptor respawn, was able to find it, but might find Creme mid here.
Yeah, was looking for the recall, decided better of it, wants to show up towards mid instead. Creme going to be able to flash back towards his turret, and does manage to escape the approaching Shun. So it is a successful move away from Creme, and he doesn't even have to exit lane despite having to blow the flash. So going to be able to stay here and try to hit that level 6 before he gets back to base.
still for BLG. Interested to see what Shun ends up prioritizing between the Drakes and the Grubs. Do you think that Drake's a little bit more power with where the game sits at the moment? And you got to imagine that with the Poke Varus, they're going to have that bot lane power that they can use to back it up. But I just really want to focus on BLG and some of the timers that they do decide to take in this game. Just because if they are not able to convert on those timers, I really feel like they run out of gas as this game goes on. So for me, eyes on them to see if they can execute early.
Fengyue going to try to start off this fight in the bottom side. Holds Viper still, gets the nice crash down back away, and they chunk Viper to about half for their efforts. Both junglers on this side of the map. As we may see NaiYou try to make a way down towards there as well. At least getting his way over towards the Dragon, trying to take advantage of the health lead that his bot lane has accrued. Speaking of accruing leads, though, Bin up about 2 waves worth of CS here as he looks to crash another one in towards 369's tower, and that's going to reward him a decent little chunk of a gold lead.
Dragon's been started, but Shun's going to be here. They know it's been pulled out.
Half HP. Shun looking to approach. Throws out the Comet Spear.
It's
that was fully charged,
BLG.
but doesn't find a target. Yeah. They will smite it down, and BLG thinks better of participating in this skirmish. So they're going to have to back away. Nice move there by NaiYou in the early game, taking advantage of the lead his bot lane's built up. And there's an all-in from Creme in the mid lane, going to expend that perfect execution nice and early. Doesn't have enough damage to kill off Knight, but does create a favorable trade for himself while he's still got members of the bottom river.
He's just doing that on timers. He's going to have it up for Grubs. NaiYou, though, does ding 6. Going to get Shun.
Yeah, but already Shockwave coming through onto Creme. Creme going to be taken very low. A flash in from Shun, but doesn't end up connecting the Comet Spear yet again. A flash in from NaiYou, but he's going to fall on down. Creme very low on HP as well. Fengyue can't even finish off the crash down in time. Creme doing his best, trying to pump out damage with the kunai, but he's going to fall down. And Viper able to clean up the rest onto JiaQi. 4 for 1 BLG.
I mean, it's NaiYou that ding 6. I thought it could have been advantage there for top esports, but BLG wiped the floor with them in this fight. And Knight has busted out a huge lead against Creme now in the mid lane. As this crab goes over, NaiYou hits 6. I thought this would have been advantageous given how low Knight is, but NaiYou gets destroyed by Shun in the initial engage. And when Shun gets pinged here, I think that if the public execution doesn't catch on and it hits Shun, they might be able to take him down.
Yeah.
But instead, I mean, the Jhin just doesn't have damage early on. Creme is ultless. And frankly, I think given the strength of the Pantheon Braum, it's just a fight that should not have been taken by top esports, regardless.
Yeah, I mean, imperfect execution from Shun there as well, missing that first Comet Spear, but it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Able to fight their way on through it. Knight low on mana doesn't particularly matter because Creme's low on health, and very, very well played by BLG across the board, and top esports just taking an advisable fight. Now, as you said, a significant lead for Knight found here, and definitely going to be rocking it a little bit more once he is able to get on towards that rod of ages, but he's most of the way there.
Where's our cream of the crop gauge at? Right, is it still out of 3? Yeah, it's still out of 3. Okay, it's not looking great at the moment. As cream of the crop's not going well for him in the mid lane. It's not going well for top esports in the bottom lane either. As some of the LDL power here, Gordo, not paying off. That's an easy kill for BLG.
No, not at all. Fengyue going to fall on down in the 2-on-2, and Viper already with a 3 assist, 1 kill advantage at the bottom side, going to have an even greater one now. As maybe an inopportune time, but chat about top esports' LDL stars in NaiYou and Fengyue.
Yeah, these guys were the core in LPL with I believe it was the BLG youth team, yeah, Gordo, where it was NaiYou and Fengyue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the players that couldn't make it on BLG now end up on top esports. And I mean, to be fair, I think NaiYou's a jungler that I'm excited about. And these guys did get major accolades in the LDL. But step up to the LPL, it's a big one. The fact that NaiYou went from group Nirvana teams to group Ascension team in 1 year, I think is pretty impressive. It really speaks to what he's able to bring behind the scenes. But that said, we're talking more about that in the actual game at the moment, Gordo, because it's a bit of a stomp.
Yeah, it's starting to run away with it on BLG's side. They do pick up all 3 grubbies there for Shun. And still, I mean, we haven't checked in top lane much lately, but Bin is building up that one-on-one advantage. Another interrupt on a Creme's recall. Yeah, maybe the Cream of the Crop graphic going down to 2 here as he struggles up against this Orianna and starting to find himself down multiple waves of CS. Knight going to be rocking 5 stacks of the Dark Seal. He managed to sneak that one in there before the last fight. That's huge.
Yeah, I think Knight's gonna run away with this game. He's got 3 grubs too, and Creme is just running for the hills.
No, don't do it to
him.
It
is
Knight.
The LPL. This is Knight's region. It just is what it is. Knight just runs things here. Creme got the best of him in Split 1 last year. That's the only best of 5 win he has against Knight, who is 6-1 against Creme. As yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like earlier on, even that dragon that Top Esports was able to get, I feel like BLG were kind of posturing just because it would have denied CS away. Okay, well,
yeah,
that's a freebie. Yeah,
well done. Yeah, the Call of the Forge God can't clear out the wave in time. And in comes Grand Starfall to clean up another one of the solo lanes of BLG, starting to run away with it. And these are the veteran players from Top Esports we were saying we needed to step up. Game number 1 not going their way.
Yeah, not much that 369 could do in that scenario. That's a nice timer set up by Shun. Mid, though, is gotten a little bit too far out of control for Comfort. As, I mean, Creme is a fantastic Akali player, guys, at home. He's a very, very, very good Akali player. Knight is also a very good Orianna player, and the lead that he has gotten and what he's been able to do with it, I mean, if you're a mid laner watching at home, I would really watch about how they tried to bleed out XP, even the Pantheon timer to take away that flash. And that ult trade that Creme had was just not it.
Yeah, they're just going to take this fight onto Fengyue, and he's going to fall down right off the bat. Public Execution connects on the backside, but the rest of the damage of BLG, it's just too much to handle. No chance of executing a carry for Creme as he'll be curdled. 3 kills over to BLG as they claim themselves the map.
I don't know if JiaQi wants to be a part of this one, as this is a beatdown, Gordo. You know, yeah. We were like, the first series that we had for LPL Gordo, it was a group Nirvana match. We were like, you know what? This is Ultra Prime. We don't feel like this is going to be that close. Yeah, this is more not close than that one, which also was not close. As BLG picked all early game, we were questioning them being able to play on their timers. You know, is it good enough? BLG is saying, yeah, we can play the way that we play as BLG. 6K gold lead early on. I mean, even Knight is moving in there with On just to make sure that he couldn't get hit by the flip on Creme. 0 damage available for Top Esports to get through these big carries as BLG continues to run away with this one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't mean to poo-poo a good performance from BLG, but they didn't even need to play on their timers. Top Esports played on their timers and gave them a 4-for-1 right at the start. And, you know, from there on, it gets a lot easier to execute.
Embrace the darkness. No, it's you were correct about that. Sadly, our young players, you know, might have picked the inopportune moment. Also, all-in fights when you have a Jhin, usually not the fight you're going to look for early on, too.
Not at all.
Or no ult Akali, you know?
It's tough. It's tough to be pre-level 6 Akali, man. Listen, I play this champion a lot, and it's not a matchup that you feel good in until you hit that level 6. And now that you're down 2 levels and already ranked 2, Shockwave is coming out, and 6 stacks of Dark Seal doesn't feel good either. That's going to be, you know, basically 2 more Amp Tomes in your inventory. Knight truly in a dominant position this game, and he is one among many, as you can see, 1K plus gold leads for basically everybody else on the map. 369 forced to flash in the one-on-one there again for those keeping track at home, and 369 kind of just playing Spectator League of Legends this game, and it's not in a position where his team's going to be able to bail him out.
If that flash looked goofy for you guys at home, I think that he was predicting that Shun was on that side of the map. Shun was actually, he got his ult timer back up and was off a deploy. He was just bot, but in fog. If that one looks goofy, I think that he was expecting that he was going to get Panth ulted again, which frankly kind of makes sense on that timer. But that said, 369 now being without flash, it's going to encourage Shun to head up there even more next time. But at the moment, Shun getting up in the face of NaiYou.
Yeah, getting good damage down on towards that Ambessa. NaiYou going to have to fall back underneath the tower. And going to have some backup from the rest of the squad.
Gold.
Creme, yeah, looking to potentially find a target to assassinate. Look at that damage output from Xun, though. Fengyue at risk of just falling down, has to flash back out. Creme going to be the one taking the majority of the damage in the front line now, as he does chunk Xun out low, and there's going to need to be a chance to try to find something here from top esports, but it's just not presenting itself. Arrows still flying in from Viper, keeping Creme nice and low.
Yeah, Xun is playing without a care in the world, and he can afford to do so at the moment. He is very far ahead on this Pantheon. And while no blood was spilled there, a lot of tools were taken away from top esports, not to mention that bot outer turret almost falling tonight in the process as well, as he is opening up almost full 2-level lead over Creme. Creme just picked up that wave, but it's pretty much a level and a half in Knight's favor. And no signs of slowing down.
Yeah, Knight's at over 10 CS per minute, of course, and is not showing any signs of slowing down. As you said there, he is just bullying the assassin in the one-on-one, and if that's just not a signifier of how this game has gone, I don't know what is. BLG truly with a major advantage in every role. It's on them to make a major mistake and let top esports back into this game, and so far, not looking like that's going to present itself, although Bin trying to get a little aggressive, has to flash away from the public execution. But that's both like ultimates on cooldown, and here comes the cavalry. Xun ulties in off the Grand Starfall, and they will be able to take down top lane turret.
I mean, Knight TP'd up here, and they can continue the push as Knight has a solo 3.3k gold lead over his opponents at the 16-minute mark here, guys. If this was a singular lead, we'd be pretty happy with it. It just all happens to be on a singular individual in Knight, who has bought the Magi, so we might all do some learning here, Gordo. As first one to learn, JiaQi no flash.
Yeah, he's definitely don't get hit by the shockwave, and it looks like that's a lesson he's already taken to heart. But now without access to that summoner, going to just be all the more vulnerable for follow-up fights. This next dragon, in the eyes of BLG, top esports, having already gotten themselves two. You know, this would be something to play for. They're going to try to jump on a Bin. He doesn't have access to the Dominus, but he does have access to a very powerful Knight coming to help him out on the flank. But still, it's basically a 4 versus 2. Bin falling lower and lower. They will finally be able to get NaiYou on top of him, but now here's an assassination attempt on towards the assassin herself. Creme falls below half HP, but will be able to hide out in the fog and get themselves out to safety. It's a numbers advantage for top esports, but the health bars maybe less so.
Well, you know, when you can't really pass the wall that NaiYou's on, which I don't know what that wall's called. We'll just call it Gromp Blue Wall.
Yep.
When Dragon's up, I think that your odds of contesting Dragon are not great. Now, the only positive for top esports this game is that NaiYou in the review after this one's going to be like, Coach, you got the first 2 Drakes. This game's not on me, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And
I'm with him.
Fair, the first fight, I don't know who made that call for top esports. It was a bad one. Do I think that was necessarily, like, is this game fully on NaiYou? No, not really. I think this is a team loss. For deciding
then again, NaiYou is the one who ticked 6, so he may have been the one calling for the fight. But
no,
somebody's got to tell him no. It can't be just his fault.
Yeah, Freak gave him 6, therefore Freak baited him in.
I'm with that. Yeah, that checks out
and Marksman's
to me.
buffed. I mean, Freak's a Marksman main, guys. Marksman got buffed this patch. Like, how are we not flaming Freak for giving 80s 6 items?
I mean, Viper looked pretty buffed in that early skirmish. Didn't even have 1 item done yet, but still was able to have a pretty big outsized impact against the reloading Jin in the one-on-one. And yeah, that all kind of just takes us to where we are now. I know this fight was like 10 minutes ago now, but top esports never recovered. They find themselves falling further and further behind from these snowballed advantages. It's a 3K individual lead on Knight. This is insane.
Gordo, I'm less interested about the game. I'm more interested on this thread that I just figured out for myself, which is Freak's own personal welfare fair plan for his main role in AD carry. What he did to his own role, I mean, he just... The economy he gave himself is pretty insane for this season. I didn't even think about this. The fact that we haven't seen, or I haven't seen any Freak jokes related to the Marksman and 6 items about how the lead game designer is like buffing up his main role, I feel like the community is really lacking on this one.
I think it's because everybody feels like top lane is so strong, right? They ascend now, right? They get past level 18. They hit Super Saiyan 4. They go even further beyond.
That's true.
And
We're still
that's
cooking
where
up something for level 20. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where most of the attention has fallen. That and mid laners not getting anything that feels new.
That's fine. Mid's too OP anyway. Mid's always OP. You play in the middle of the map. We don't have to buff mid.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Good job, Freak. But AD, 6-side, bonus gold and all the mage creeps? Come on. It's a little too obvious there.
The point is that it's not new, not that it's not deserved or needs to be more powerful, I think.
Yeah.
But,
you know.
I mean, inner turret, by the way, still worth a boatload of gold, about to fall down to BLG. They get themselves another 1,000 in the bank or so. And Top Esports are left trying to roam as a full squad, trying to make something happen. On just chucks out Glacial Fissure in the middle of nowhere, connects onto nothing, but the siege will continue nonetheless.
Yeah, unless BLG does something catastrophic, I think that Gordo and I can kind of keep talking about whatever we'd like to do. Especially if we're not going to even have a front row seat to public executions. Not even honoring any medieval times Top Esports is. As that used to be a community event. Not so with NaiYou, though. As that skill shot goes wide. And the mid-inner turret does fall. 369 TPing to his own inner turret. As BLG has knocked down this inner. And is rotating to at least pressure the last one. As Finn gets a plate for himself. And BLG... You know, it might be time for a T1 Baron BLG, and something I feel like BLG historically has done very, very well as a team. It is taking Baron and ending games. I feel like BLG is elite at doing that as a team. With 20-minute Barons up now. I would love if they could, you know, maybe pull a T1 Baron, be elite at ending the game as BLG is themselves, and take us out of our own misery here, Gordo, which is covering this very non-competitive game at the moment.
Oh, this is a TP from Creme showing up in the middle of 3 members, by the way. Uh-oh. Will be able to sneak his way out of there in time. He's on magic resist boots. Does get to get himself a little bit of a shield to survive against Knight's damage, but that's both TPs blown to the top lane, just trying to stop the inner turret from falling down. And you know, Bin is side laning on the bottom side. That does mean, well, he's already got his quest fully stacked up, so I guess it doesn't matter. At this stage of the game, he's just going to look to keep on hammering on these inhibitor turrets, and already a plate's fallen down there, so BLG just keeping the pressure on across the map, and finally some on my way pings are showing up towards this Baron. It's almost like they forgot that it spawns before 25 minutes now.
Yeah, they're focused on taking the inner that now has plates. That's the new piece of eye candy that they're looking at the moment. As Shun gonna maybe be going on Creme here, as he's the same level as the enemy mid.
Stepping on up, turret falling lower and lower, getting these bags of gold attached to each of the plates. Shun coming in on the side, finds a stun out of Creme. Creme down below half. Chains of Corruption goes wide. We're just chucking ultimates wherever on the BLG side this game, and we'll call it a zoning ulti as Top Esports have to back away, and they give up their last inner turret.
I think Viper and On got a little bit bored there and decided to press R, because frankly, if they still had those Rs, it would make the upcoming Baron easier. I think we're going to set our sights onto the Dragon, prevent that soul point from going over to Top Esports, take away that win con. I think it's a smart move here for BLG, as they're going to hedge their bets and make sure they don't give Top Esports that last-ditch effort to unlock a Hex Soul for themselves, which definitely not something you want to give over. So I think BLG.
We're not making it to Hex Soul this game, Cubby. I'm gonna.
I don't think so either. But that's why BLG is going to make sure they take this Dragon, because they don't want to make sure that Top Esports has any chance to win this game, which Hex Soul would somehow give them a chance to win this game, even in spite of the deficit, potentially.
Yeah, starting off onto it, looks like they should be able to grab this one uncontested. Would be inadvisable for Top Esports to show up to this. And then, and only then, maybe we'll get to see an attempt at this early Baron. 10k gold lead. Doesn't get much better than this for BLG. Fengyue trying to take the engage onto the opposing support, but On going to be able to absorb that without too much pressure. Now Shun showing on up with the stun. Will get the first kill of the fight. Creme exhausted. Flash forward from Shun, holding down the Akali. Follow-up stun from Bin. Creme going to be able to sneak his way away in time. Knight flashes forward. Can't find a shockwave target, but 369 left out
June's
to dry. Shun was able to hunt down Creme. Finally, he'll drop down to JiaQi's damage, but NaiYou up next on the menu, trying to fall back to the tower, but Knight will hunt him down, and Knight will claim another kill. 4 fall for Top Esports, and soon so will their base.
Who needs Baron end game if you're BLG? Just, you know, drop all your ports, drop all your ults, and be just okay, as BLG, you know what? I think on one hand, this is the BLG that we're used to seeing. It's good to see them in the new year. Just full court press, you know, pedal to the metal. On the other side, top esports without Cubby. This is kind of why I put more of an emphasis on 369 and Creme. Because for me, top esports being this lost, that's not on Cubby versus NaiYou. For me, it's on the members that are still with this team. And it's very clear that, like, this team just isn't the same without Cubby. I mean, look, we don't have access to comms. I don't speak, you know, the languages that these guys are speaking to communicate with. But it was so clear, even without knowing that, for top esports the past couple years, this was a team that ran through Cubby. He was the one that dictated how the early game was played and pretty much how top esports played the game from start to finish. Look, I don't think that's on NaiYou, JiaQi, or Fengyue to really cover for that. I think it's more so on the two teammates that were playing with Cubby for the past 2 years that needs to bring some of what Cubby brought to that team and do so for top esports. It's just clear that like that's missing from top. The direction is missing. I know that this game got out of control early on, but oh, hold on.
Breaking out now. Shun still at pretty high HP thanks to the invulnerability. And here comes Bin on the flank. One falls down, and Creme trying to find an execution target, but nobody getting even remotely low enough for that to be a possibility. BLG clean up 3 once again. Do not lose a single body. And now it's time for the Baron, but it's after 25 minutes, Cubby. It very well may have forgotten about the respawn timer.
Well, I didn't forget about the enemy jungler, as NaiYou is going to fall to that Orianna. And, I mean, kind of returning to what I was saying before. Like, again, guys, top esports, this is a team that ran through Cubby. He's not there, and I feel like the members that are still there really haven't picked up the slack. And I think that, for me, is the concerning part about top. And, look, 369, I think we have a lot of history of 369 playing the game at a high level, like both as an individual and macro-wise. But I don't know, like, if he's able to mind control his team to do so or really level up through that, or what top esports needs to play a more cohesive game. But this game got out of hand quite quickly. I think they're comp from behind. You know, Jin's not the damage that's great for fighting from behind, especially into this beefier front line that Bin and Shun have, being ahead. And it felt like top didn't really have a way to play the game or didn't know how to play this game. And that's my great concern with top moving forward, because when Cubby was on this team, we always knew they were going to play with some sort of direction through him. And right now, top esports just seems lost as a team.
Yeah, not a clear path back into the game here other than to try to contest for those dragons. And they have been well and truly prevented from doing just that. NaiYou can't find any angles to get into these fights, and now I just don't think they do enough damage, right? Even if they find the perfect engage, it's going to take somebody to half HP, and then they're going to be wiped before they can say much about it. Bin finds the stun onto NaiYou. He tries to dangle out the public execution, but nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Knight will take him down for his 5th kill of the game as the inhibitors start to fall, and here comes Grand Starfall. Shun isolates Creme, forces him back into the fountain. Fengyue going to fall down tonight for an unofficial double kill in the extended trade. JiaQi throws down the curtains, but will not be able to make anybody drop away. It's going to be a clean fight from BLG, a fountain dive from Bin, looking for the clean ace, and BLG will find it as they close out game number 1.
Sheesh. You know what? BLG, sometimes they tend to make the LPL look like that, but even for BLG, that was impressive. Knight Orianna, you know, they were missing Knight during Demacia Cup. We kind of wrote it off for BLG because of that. Yeah, it turns out when you get the best player in the league, who has been the best player in the league pretty much since he entered, back in your lineup, things get a little bit easier. And BLG, early on in this season, looks like they're firing on all cylinders. And that style that we know this iteration of BLG can play at 4 out of the 5 really made their bread and butter, which was the full court press style, in full effect here early on in Season 16.
Absolutely here. I mean, another highlight game from Knight. That's going to make it 3 in a row for him. We don't talk about that Azir game to open up the series last night. And as long as we ignore that one, this guy has been on an absolute tear. It really, again, he got funneled a little bit from that early trade in the bottom side, but also has shown what has made him such a standout player for so long. There's mechanical excellence, there's good performance in the trades, good understanding of his matchups, and also just knowing where to be to hoover up the most gold possible on the map. He was 2K, 3K, 4K, 5K up in no time after getting that small lead and not letting it go.
Yeah, I think, oh, how do I want to say? I was coaching earlier in the day at Gordo. Shout out to Respawn and Milk, who are putting on a combine here in North America for some fresher folks. A lot of players that haven't attempted OQs before or aren't in NACL yet, which is the only reason why I'm coaching, because I can't really help out with the NACL guys. But I was talking about mid lane timers early on. If you're a mid laner who maybe wants to get a little bit better at the game at home, watching how Knight played that Akali matchup against Creme, I think the timer that he called Shun on, that got Akali's flash out, that pretty much makes it so that Orianna's under minimal threat against an Ambessa jungle early on too. And then how they were able to push that lead or advantage, and then the oopsie of Creme trading his ult kind of for fun of the way after the dragon and not having access to that for the fight. It really made that first fight that was opted into by Top Esports just look so abysmal when you do have Akali with no ult and you have Shun on that early Pantheon who was really able to run those early fights. Shun did a very good job of piloting the Pantheon and playing pedal to the metal throughout that game in that one. So props to him for keeping that game going.
Certainly. Definitely a composition where BLG needed to get ahead early, and they got the opportunity, and they seized it, and they stayed ahead throughout the entirety of the game, Top Esports. It feels like we don't get to draw a lot of conclusions from that game because of how quickly everything went wrong, and that also feels like that's what we said about the JDG series. So now we're 3 games into the season, and we've yet to get to see Top Esports put much together. I fear that if they can't try to figure something out in draft, try to figure out some kind of game plan in game number 2 of this series, we might be leaving 2 series in at the end of the night for Top Esports without really much to say in any direction about this team. And it's Group Ascend, right? All the competition is going to be tough. If you can't put up fights against really good teams, you're not going to have a lot of mid or low tier teams to play against.
I mean, look, this is a team where at the moment, I think that they're a play-in target to beat. And they're going to get seeded against the Group Ascend team with how the cookies crumble at the moment. But yeah, I think that this is just... This is a team where I'm looking for any sense of life, but I'm mostly looking for it from 369 or especially Creme in the mid lane. Again, I don't think 369 could do a lot in that game. I think that Creme, the way that he got behind in that game is what I'm concerned about. And yes, it's a part of the draft. Like, Top have to eat some stuff early on. They can't really take the fight. They did. But, Creme needs to go from being a younger player on this team to a more veteran player that at least has a veteran voice or appears to be a more consistent player within the team. It can help some of the young people around him make sure that the games are easier for him. A lot of the times we talk about when you have new players, it's really tough to go from playing, solo queue to 5s, from going to playing LDL to LPL. That's a giant jump in knowledge that, these players are trying to make. You are the one that have been in that seat for the last 2 years with Top Esports and 3 years within this league for the mid lane going back to OMG. You got to be able to play well enough to help the new guys that come up. If not, it's hard to be valuable as an older player as time goes on. You haven't really made a difference, right? And your experience, that's experience that those young players don't have and can't match. And yeah, I mean, if that you're not a consistent factor for them, you're not an asset for them, that's what makes things hard. And things appear to be quite hard for Top Esports right now.
Yeah, definitely. And, this is one of those matchups where, again, if you're not able to have targets to assassinate, it's hard to do very much for Creme, but you definitely do need to see him be able to kind of guide the rest of these players. You mentioned coming up from LDL is tough. Even in NaiYou's case, coming up from Group Nirvana to Group Ascend, a big jump up in quality of play here. And he had some good ideas earlier on. You don't hate conceptually the idea of trying to take a fight with that 1 level advantage, but clearly just didn't work out for the team comp, and that's where you need these veteran voices to kind of call him off. And yes, you got control over the early dragons. That's a good first step, but the fact that that fight was so poorly advised is really going to be what is going to be the story of game number 1. You're going to hope that they can find a way to not repeat it in game number 2.
Yeah, definitely something that I think is a little bit unique with Jhin in the game. Like, just Jhin at that moment, I don't think you ever really want to fight because you're pre-6, and Jin's not for deeps, right? Jin's for just kind of chipping away at your health bar over time, and then playing around your windows because he's very window-based between the W, the R, and your 4th shot. So, yeah, a bit of a misconceptualizing oopsie from top that BLG, a team that, I mean, again, the majority of this team is usually competing for international events. Even looking at Viper, who hasn't played with his crew, and what he's been able to do on his own accord, whether that's in the LPL or in the LCK, as Viper has spent some time bouncing between both throughout the last few years. So, yeah, BLG, the team that I think has a lot more class and pedigree behind them, definitely showing top esports that was the case for both the new members and the members that do have class and pedigree in their own right on top esports from that game 1.
Yeah, we talked about Brains and Brawn earlier in the series, and this was all Brawn all the time, and BLG definitely made good on the promises of how individually skilled these players are. They were able to find huge leads across the board. You know, again, we talk over and over and over again about that early bot river fight, but you know, Bin had no problem developing a nice early lead all on his own. He was forcing out flashes one-on-one over and over again up against 369 on a blind Renekton pick, right? He took it at the end of round 1 of picks. Yes, you got to do some bans to defend it, taking away the Scion, taking away the Cassante, some of those safer tanks, but definitely a shame for 369 that he was not really able to be competitive in that one-on-one, maybe showing some of why that Ornn isn't the huge pick right now in the current meta so far in this season, and it's because stuff like that Renekton is just going to ram that lead down your throat so fast and so hard.
Yeah, one that, again, top esports going to have to bounce back from. Knight wins the POG, I think rightfully so. That mid lane lead was gross. It was 3K around the 15-minute mark. As an individual, that is pretty filthy there for Knight, as he has quite the game for himself in the mid lane.
As he did, yeah. Again, it's just damage per gold at 201% is crazy, by the way. It's just building himself up so much of a gold lead and making good on
Knight,
it.
Man. He's so good. He's just always a treat to watch, you know?
Yep.
Well, you get that treat to watch this time around, Gordo. You're watching one of the best mids in the world play over
Absolutely.
here. And playing well.
Joy to be here. It's a bunch of fun to get to watch Knight actually play and perform, and that's definitely what we're going to be looking for each and every time BLG plays. We'll see if he's able to keep the streak alive coming into game number 2 against Top Esports. We are about to throw it to a quick break, but I do want to shout out Coffee. If you would like to support LPL English, consider becoming a Coffee member. Coffee is the best way to support the LPL English project, since the vast majority of your contributions will go directly to the show. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it pays on-air talent and content creators. Subscribe to our Coffee LinkedIn chat to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions to our unique on-site interviews, and to continue to let us bring you players like Knight week in and week out. That said, we're going to throw it to a quick break, but we will be right back for draft number 2 before you know it, so do not go anywhere. We'll see you soon.